Hello, artists. We're going to draw a dream catcher today. So you're going to need a piece of white paper. You're also going to need a black crayon or Sharpie. A colored pencil would work also. We just want a drawing material that's not going to move with water. You're also going to need some markers and a little bit of water. Let's start with a pencil. So our dream catcher drawing is going to start with some circles. Okay, so I'm going to put my circle a little bit higher up on the page so that I have room for all the feathers and things that hang down. So if you have something that you can trace, you could do that. If you don't, then you're just going to have to wing it and draw a circle freehand. All right, so my circle, I used my tape for my circle. After you have a circle, I think this size is good. It's the size of like a little bigger than my palm. We're going to do a circle inside of this circle. So for me, it works out perfectly that I have this tape right here. So I'm going to use that as a tracer. If you don't have that, then of course you could just sketch in that circle as well. Don't worry about making it perfect, okay? So you have the medium-sized circle and then a smaller circle inside. All right, the next step is that we're going to plan a little bit so that we can add like the webbing part of our dream catcher. So I'm going to find like the center of my circle and I'm going to just make a little dot on the right outer circle. And then let's come across and make another that's kind of horizontal from that first dot. We're going to do the same thing vertically up at the very top center and then down at the bottom center. We're going to add two more sets of dots now. So finding the middle in between these two, I'm going to make a dot and then straight across again. Same thing over here now. In between the top center and the right center, I'm going to make a dot and then move straight across. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dots on the outer circle of my dream catcher. That's so that I can plan to help me keep everything symmetrical. All right, so our next step is to make a little mark in the center. I made mine very lightly. So I am going to create sort of, they almost look like flower petals. It's going to be a line that starts at that center dot and curves to the bottom, and I'm going to do a curve on that side as well. So you can see it sort of like, it almost looks like a little leaf. I'm going to do the same thing up here. So starting at this dot, I'm going to curve to the center. Now for me, it's harder for me to move my hand this way, so I'm going to turn my paper and do the same thing with these side dots. Everything is sort of meeting and touching in the center. With a nice curved, leafy kind of shape. Oop, that one's a little short. Let me bring it a little closer to the center so it's all touching. Okay, so now I have these 4 petal shapes. I'm going to add 4 more now on these sections, these dots that I haven't done yet. So again, it's the same sort of idea that I'm going to start the corner, but this time these petals are a little bit smaller because they can't quite reach all the way. Mine can't anyway, to that center. So everything is still kind of touching, right? We want it to look like this is a thread that is connected. So I'm gonna stretch mine a little so that all those are now touching. We're going to add some more lines in here now that are going to fill up these sort of spaces in between each of these 2 like petals. So I'm just going to start at the center in between these 2 dots, and I'm just going to make a line that connects to my 2 little leafy shapes that I found. So again, find the center, and we're just going to draw some lines down. Kind of like little V's. It helps me a lot to just turn my paper as I go. So then I'm really drawing sort of the same 2 angles every time. This one's a little wider. Oh, I got one more and then I've made it all the way around. Something I'm going to add is add those dots back right where I created those little V's, so then it feels like they're kind of like connected to the Dreamcatcher. So we want to create a circle in the inside, like a much smaller circle that's sort of touching all these. So I'm going to make a circle in the inside. I'm going to open this up a little bit. I'm going to do another little circle, just to give it a little more interest. So I want to make sure everything feels like it's all connected together. I need to create sort of like a wrap around this edge. So I'm going to use kind of like I guess sometimes I call it a roller coaster line. It's like a loop-de-loop. So I'm making a loop-de-loop line. Maybe you just want to do some like straight lines around, some straight like lines like that. I like the loop-de-loop. It feels like my Dreamcatcher's been wrapped with like a thread around the edge. So I'm going to do loop-de-loop around this full edge, turning my paper as I go, because that's what works best for me. Almost made it. All the way back. So now I have this outer edge of my Dreamcatcher, and then you're going to need to look at the link in the slides presentation for some cool ideas about feathers. I'm going to sketch in maybe like 3 feathers. So I think maybe I'm going to start with the shape. It's kind of a similar shape to the shape that I was drawing in there. I'll make it a little pointy. So it's kind of like a V with like a curve on top. I'm going to use a little variety. So I'm going to create some other types of feathers too. So this one in the center is going to be a little bit, I think, shorter, I guess. Make sure your feathers don't turn into too big of a shape. I like to have mine all pointing down. The other thing that really helps to make these look like feathers is to kind of draw it kind of looks like pieces taken out of them. So I'm drawing little V's kind of like on the side of these feathers. And then I'm going to erase the line in between. So I'm erasing like the outer part of that little V. So now my feather shape is more separated, so it kind of feels more feathery. I'm just outlining the part that we're leaving. Hopefully you can see how that simple little trick really helps these look more feathery. There's lots of other details you can add. I'm going to add sort of like a vertical-ish line coming down my feathers. Maybe you want to add some more angled lines to give it a little texture. The other thing you could add, of course, are like little beads. Maybe I'll put some beads down by these feathers, and then let's connect them with a line to our Dreamcatcher. All right, so that's the basic Dreamcatcher drawing. If you have other things you're adding, that's awesome. We need to Sharpie these lines or trace them with a supply that won't change with water. So I'm going to pause and Sharpie all of my lines, and then we'll chat again. All right, I'm back. I have Sharpied my pencil lines and erased any pencil marks that were left over. And now your job is going to be to color in your Dreamcatcher using markers. We're going to do a trick with some water after you're done coloring in. So I'm just going to color mine, and then I'll come back to it and I'll show you the cool water trick. All right, guys, here's my colored in Dreamcatcher. I think it looks great already, but something fun to try is with some water. I'm just going to drip a little bit of water on top of my marker areas. And what that does is that it kind of picks up the color in those areas. I don't want to do too much, but I'm just going to try to sprinkle a little bit with my finger on some of these feathers, and then also some to the interior part of my Dreamcatcher. You can see I colored in really simply. I think that's kind of a good tip while you're coloring in. Nothing too crazy, especially because this little water trick is going to change some of your colors. So I'm going to let mine sit for a minute, and then I'm going to show you how it looks once it dries. All right, guys, so hopefully you can see a little bit of the areas where the color picked up. Mine got a little messier than I wanted it to, but there you have it. Happy creating.